Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode 9 of the Git series, the series where we try to implement Git from scratch in Scala. And today it's actually been the third time I'm recording this episode um, because I had some microphone issue. Hopefully this time is going to be the last one. And what I wanted to do today is to implement the object repository file system. If you remember correctly, last time we implemented the test. The first thing to do is to modify the test a bit because there might be a problem, um, a cache problem if the file already exists, and then implement the object repository file system. Okay, and this is the test here. And what I mean is that in the test you can see that what we are testing is to see if we are saving the file for when we serialize a blob, when we want to save the file in the Git object repository, we want to make sure that it's saved at the right place and in the right format. So to do that, we are saving our files in the target Git object directory. So what is going to happen if potentially if we change the implementation and there was a test that passed, the next test might pass because the file might already exist somehow. So what I'd feel more comfortable to do is to make sure that we remove the file if it's already exists. And to do that, so that would be this file. I'm going to extract that into the file name into the variable generated file. So it's actually name of generated file instead of generated file name. Makes more sense, I think. And what we want to do is, so we don't care about the result of what we want to do. We just want to remove the file, and we can use the files from Nio, I think Java Nio delete if exists. But it's an effect, so we need to wrap that into Zio. And here it's important to notice that we don't want to use succeed. We want to use attempt because if we use succeed, that means that we expect the effect not to throw any fatal errors. But if we use attempt, we expect the effect to fail. And if we look at what the files dot delete if exist returns is gonna potentially return the NIO exception, I think. So that's why we should use attempt, not flatten attempt here. And attempt I think it's files delete if exists. And we're gonna put the name of the generated file. Okay. To be consistent here, I'm gonna actually rename that file generated, okay? Generated, cool. Let's see if we can import that. Okay, that's imported, but we can see that we have an error here. So it's expecting, if we look at the type, yeah, you can see that it's a pass to Boolean. Well, we don't care about the Boolean. So here it's pass.get, I think. Did I put one? Yeah, I missed one parenthesis. Oh yeah, here, this one parenthesis. And the pass is probably part of the file as well, so I'm just going to import everything here. Okay. And in the meantime, what we can look at is the implementation of delete if exists. Yeah, that's what I meant here. You can see that this throws an IO exception, and you can throw a lot of exceptions actually. So that's why we are not using succeed but attempt. And we need to do that before we actually call the repo save here. So we need to put that up. Like here, for instance. Let's see now if our tests are passing. Well, I mean, if we test are failing for the right reason, so we should see a not implemented error as last time, but at least we're a bit more certain that there's going to be less cache issue potentially. We're certain that the file that we're checking will be generated as part of the save and not in the previous attempts, basically. Okay, perfect. So now we can go actually to the implementation. Object repository file system. Nice, and that's what we had. Okay. So first thing, we say that we want to take the byte stream, and so then there is a run method that we can provide a sink. So we are going to basically run the byte stream to a sink, and this sink is going to be from file name. There's a way to have a sink to write in a file, so that's what we are doing here. The file name. So here, well, sorry, the file is stored in a directory with the name contained of the two first letters of the hash, and the file name is then the rest. So we can actually use an extension method here if you want. So hash dot get file path, maybe file path. You can use that for the moment. There's extension of a hash here. And we can actually define, I'm going to put it without any private for the moment, because this is relevant only in the infrastructure, not in the domain. As far as I know, for the moment, we don't want to have that as part of the domain, because that's the way to save the hash in a folder and then a directory to help for lookup is it's just an optimization of the infrastructure when we in the file system basically. So what I'm going to do here is get file path to define this function, and this is going to return a string. Okay, byte stream and a byte stream. Okay, and it is xsync. Okay, so and the implementation for this function is going to be simple enough. So it's going to be hash dot hash. So we have this only function in the Scala library to just take the first two. So it's going to take the first two elements of the string. That's the directory name. I'm going to use string interpolation here. Okay. And don't forget the S at the beginning. Okay. And so that's the directory. Then we want to put the file, which is going to be similar enough. So it's going to be hash. And instead of take, we're going to use drop 2, okay? If we want, we can even extract that into a variable to make sure that this is the same value. Number of letter of directory. Number of character to be directory numbers of character. Maybe it's going to be better. Okay. Yeah, I want to import that. So here we are returning the string with the directory and the file. Okay. What's the problem? You can see down in the very bottom of the screen, found ZIO, any throwable long and required IO, Git object repository error units. And the reason for that is that we ask specifically to to have that the error type is object repository error and not throwable here. So it's not returning the right type. So what we can do is map the error channel. And we want to create object repository error here. And we said that this object repository error takes the reason. Error when saving blob in the file system. And we want obviously to send as well the error to be able to debug that if we need. Okay, that's another good milestone. There seems to be still an error. So here we can see that if you look at the bottom of the screen again, we can see that the error channel is correct, but now the problem is that it's returning a long, but it's expecting unit. So there is a very simple way of doing that. We can just put unit here. Okay. I realized that we didn't use the root here, so we forgot to prefix that with a root. So we can use string concatenation again if we want. And the first parameter is going to be root. And then we need to close that. So one thing I don't like here is the root being used as a string, because you never know if there is a slash or not at the end. So eventually what I like to do is not to use string concatenation here, but use another method, like maybe an extension method on string, or use a specific type for handling the pass. So yeah, we can see that at the end, or maybe in a later video if we have time. Okay. What does the result of the test tell us? What we can do is that we should still have the file written in the target. So let's try to cat the target git object. Okay, so we can see that this is what we are writing, and I'm gonna cat as well what we are comparing with. So it's in src test resource blob. Okay, so here obviously we forgot an element, which is the flattening, the deflate to actually compress the file. Okay, so that's not a big deal. Let's add that now. I think we have via, we can use via, and has, this is very widely used. It's probably already implemented here. So if I go deflate, well, I know that is already implemented, but you can. It's very nice to see that we just have to have deflate here to handle these kind of things, and it's not a very specific compression format. Okay, let's try to run the test again. Okay, still different. We can look again at the file that it generated here. Okay, so now it's quite similar actually. This is slightly different. So what I suspect is happening here is that, if you remember correctly, if I open actually the use case, the hash object use case, we have the 0 byte here that we are using, and the 0 byte is not there. So I suspect it should. So I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to use some string concatenation, string interpolation here, because this is a car, and if I put it as is, it's going to be taken as a string. Yeah, so I'm going to use that here to be able to integrate this into the string. Okay, we're not passing. What's the problem now? Okay, so comparing chunks is obviously not very useful. So to try to debug that, we can try to decompress and put it in UTF-8 to see. So before the run collect, I am going to use via here and via z pipeline dot inflate, and then I think it's this symbol to UTF-8 decode pipe UT. I think it's that way that we write. If we can import the pipeline. Okay. Perfect. Let's do the same for user file here. And let's try to run the test again to see if we have something a bit more meaningful to compare. All right. Okay, so the test is passing. So I'm kind of wondering what about if there is a non-coding issue, potentially. I wonder if we can check that by removing the UTF-80 code and see if we can compare. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be a non-coding issue. Maybe it's wrong to compare two compressed file like that. Maybe the properties are slightly different. We can, if we look at the deflate here, so we can put some property here. Okay, maybe the level of compression is different and the strategy is different, maybe. I'm pretty happy for that at the moment, with that at the moment. I think when we will be writing maybe some integration tests, we'll see in the future if that actually causes a problem or not. I'm going to leave it there for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching this one.